My name's Lorenzo Crispini. I was born with a hearing disability, so a hearing impairment. And my hearing impairment is about high-pitched noises, so struggling to hear the telephone, the S's, the T's, the P's and words. And when I was younger, had to go to speech therapy to make sure, because I couldn't hear the sounds, I had to learn how to pronounce them myself. So the S's, the T's, so I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between CH at the start of a word and SH at the start of a word. Well, I couldn't pronounce words properly. There are some embarrassing stories. I couldn't pronounce the word stick, and as a little boy, when you go to the park, sticks are the coolest things in the world. So I used to say, "Look, mummy, I found a dick." That was quite awkward for my parents. Or I couldn't hear the R in drink, so I used to say, "Mummy, can I have a dink?" Okay. There's all kinds of examples. So people couldn't understand me. I was getting frustrated, and obviously they realised there was a problem there and need to get that fixed. Yeah, I think from my friends sometimes they're brilliant and they understand, because I've been friends with them for years, thankfully. But they occasionally there could be a group joke and you had to hear the joke first time to get it. And it's just an understanding of, sorry, what was the joke? Would you mind repeating it? And sometimes you lose that joke, but you can feel a little bit left out. So just a bit of understanding to repeat the joke. Okay, it may not be funny anymore, but at least you can keep up in that respect. I think I did get a lot of support actually. Luckily for me, all of my friends were very understanding, and the teachers made sure they looked at me and they would sort of facilitate making sure other school kids would try and look at me. But obviously at a young age, they're not always remembering to look at me, for example. When I went to university, or before I went to university, I phoned them up and said, just to let you know, I'm hard of hearing, I might need some support on note takers, because I lip read and so forth. And the response I got was, do you need a room on the ground floor? And I said, well no, I can walk, it's fine. And then they were saying, do you need a disabled toilet? And I was like, again, no. But yeah, it was again a classic example of not understanding various disabilities. It's just disabilities, you're in a wheelchair. You probably can't see my hearing aid on at the moment. I'm supposed to have two, but my left one's broken, so I'll fix that. But in the olden days, it was just a loud microphone. So when I used to run, you get that sound where you think you're running super fast. And then it would, sounds that I could hear clearly were just even louder. And the smaller sounds, it's the tone that I couldn't hear, not necessarily the volume. So now it just highlights the elements that are, the elements that I can't hear. They lower the tone slightly, and it's very scientific. I don't know the real reason how they do it. And it's much more advanced. It picks up the sounds that I need to hear and focuses on those. One thing they did do in the progress, so it was, we made everything louder, and then they said, well, you face people, could you lip read them? So what we'll do is we'll cut out all the background sound, and only who you look at will focus the sound on. And I said, well, that's great, but what happens if there's a bus behind me, or someone's I need to hear something behind me? So they put one at the front and one at the back, but then what happens if my golf classes are talking at the back? And it's a very hard challenge, but they pick up the loudest sound, so hopefully the teacher is talking loudest, and I pick up that hearing now, today.
Okay, great.
Yeah, technology's made it much easier. Again, old technology, when I used to have my hearing aids, I couldn't pick up the telephone because it would just react.
Yep.
Now I think they have, I want to call it a microcoil, but it's basically, because the way a speaker works, it's electromagnets that pump the sounds with two cones that make the sound. So I've got a speaker in my hearing aid that goes into my ear canal. Equally, there's a speaker on the other end of the phone, and the two magnets would just collide. I don't know how they fixed it, but they fixed it, which is really, really good. Some people like putting their hands in front of their mouths, which is really frustrating because I can't lip read. And some people have a preference for telephones, and often it's fine. But if it's a bad line, in my working life, I have a lot of conference calls with people on the roads, and they, bless them, they like to have conference calls with their window open on a M25 or something. So that's quite challenging because of the background noise. So my preference would be an email or a text, or face-to-face conversation. And the other challenge as well is when you have meetings and you want to lip read people, but you also want to write down notes. That can be a challenge, but I've kind of mastered that. But what I will do is I sit in the corner of the room on a meeting room table so that I can lip read everyone rather than in the middle where it's a bit harder to see everyone in a debate. I think just be a bit patient. If you're having to repeat yourself and you're not facing that person, that is a key indicator. Sometimes some people talk really fast, you've got to slow down a little bit, but there is a balance between, and it is hard not to be patronising by saying, hello, can you hear me? There's a balance of just slowing down and did you understand what I said? And if you've asked someone, it's a very British thing when someone says, sorry, what's your name? And you ask 3 times and then you go, okay. But if someone's not hearing you, just write it down for them. Oh, here's my business card, or do something to help them. And choose email as a first form of communication. And if you really need to telephone them, then telephone them. I had a bit of a confidence issue when I was younger, but I would now, in a CV, applying for a job, I would say I'm hard of hearing, but I've got hearing aids, I'm fully capable. But I have to admit that a few years ago, absolutely not, I wouldn't put that on my CV, and that they might see that as a hindrance. What I would like to put as a message out to employers is sometimes there's advantages. Because I lip read, I can read body language arguably better. I can see instantly if someone's a little bit upset or a little bit anxious. I used to joke with an old manager that I always knew whether she was going to give me good or bad news before a meeting, because the walk to the meeting room, you could just see how fidgety she was and so forth. I think there are, you could argue, because I lip read and read body language, that someone with a hearing impairment might be really good in customer service. Mm-hmm. They can understand the customer instantly and understand how to approach them. So I think definitely there are skills that can be taken from people with various disabilities that are highly employable. If I met you in the bar for the first time and I was struggling to hear, I would ask you to face me. If we're in a bar and you've got a menu, put the menu down, so I could, which is a very common thing. People go, oh, this looks nice. What? I can't say that. So face me, talk a bit louder, and if it's a particularly noisy part of the bar, maybe ask for a table in the corner where the vibrations don't bounce off the walls, if that makes sense. Yes. Often on nights out, people will say, oh, I love this song, and I really have to stop and concentrate to hear the song. That doesn't impact me. In terms of stigma, one thing that does frustrate me is, and I've had a recent incident of this, is I wasn't fit to sit in allegedly, wasn't fit to sit in a certain emergency seat in an aeroplane. And I said, but I'm able-bodied, I can lift the weight, I can see, and I've got hearing aids. I do have a hearing loss, but I've got hearing aids to bring me back up to the level that is competent. But apparently still I wasn't allowed to sit in that seat. Now, if someone didn't have great eyesight, didn't have their contact lenses in because they were slightly hungover or whatever reason, would you stop them sitting in that? And that really angered me, because that's a clear misunderstanding of what able-bodied actually means. And it's just ticking boxes and hiding behind policies they don't understand properly. Anyway, I was a bit embarrassed and a bit annoyed about that. So why would you treat someone with glasses differently to someone with hearing or someone in a wheelchair? We're all the same people, we all have different abilities. So yeah, that stigma annoys me. So an example I had recently was I was doing telephone banking. I needed telephone my bank and sort out an issue. And as is sometimes the case, the call centre is in somewhere in Asia, maybe, and there's quite a strong accent, and not their fault. But I was struggling to hear, and I said, look, I'm really, really sorry. I can't hear very well. It might be the line, it might be the accent, but do you have anyone where their first language is English? And they said, absolutely, sir, no problem. They took it really, really well, which is very good. And to be fair, they did exactly what I asked. English speaking, first language is English, but it was the strongest Scottish accent. Which put me back in a dilemma. I didn't know if I could I have someone with a certain accent part of Guernsey? But they did everything that I asked them to do, and we got there in the end. The lady was brilliant. She talked very slowly, repeated herself, turned up the volume on her phone, and we got the job done.
Right.
So it's fine.
Do you mind me asking if you let her know that you were hard of hearing?
Yeah. Actually, maybe not. I should have done, and I have no shame in saying it. I don't know why. I just didn't.
Right, thank you. That's an important point for us, because when you said what you said, you asked them to speak slower, and but didn't mention that you were hard of hearing. So I think that's a really important point.
When you're in a taxi, because I lip read people, and taxi drivers are very sociable, lovely people, but they're obviously looking at the road and they're talking, but I need to lip read them in their wing mirror. Not their wing mirror, so their rear mirror, and I can't hear what they're saying. It's really embarrassing. But they're great. They're very, you just say, sorry, I lip read people, and they're fine. They talk a bit louder, and it's always about football, isn't it? So that really helps. And likewise, if I'm driving and I've got people in the back, same thing. I need to see you in the mirror to be able to hear what you're saying. Certainly, local businesses, it's getting much better in Guernsey, but a big plus for me is being able to book a restaurant online. Because when you phone a restaurant, typically there's loads of background noise. They're in the kitchen, or there's background music in that one. If they can set it up that I can email you, amazing. That would be really helpful. And that's not just for restaurants, that's all businesses. An option to email would be really, really good. And then what I say to my hockey colleagues is, because of the tone of voice, if you've got a high-pitched voice, I probably won't be able to pass it to you because I won't hear it. So I need you to shout in a low voice, pass the ball, and I might. Sorry, I do use my sense of humour as perhaps a defence mechanism. Not obviously conscious of it. It's a good question. I think one of the best things that happened to me was in my yearbook, leaving Elizabeth College. You had a photo, your nickname, and someone else would write a quote. And one of my friends, it was very on the line of politically correct, but he said, "Don't pretend you heard that, Lorenzo," as like the most common quote people would say to me. And I actually found that really funny. And it was a real understanding with everyone that, yeah, he's partly deaf. We can have a laugh about it. I think if you're too sensitive, people walk on eggshells around you, and it's not great for social interactions and being included in environments. So I think that kind of made me take the comedy route. And what my friends will say all the time is I have some of the funniest stories, and one of my friends said, "I reckon I could write a book about you and it would be a top seller," which is great, because you can share these funny experiences. You can be the comedian if you like, and you've got everyone who actually want to be around you because they share your embarrassing stories or your just funny ones, and it's lovely. It's great. It's what you want with your friends to share. Everyone's got embarrassing stories. Able-bodied, not able-bodied, or people with disabilities or without disability. They're all funny. You've got to laugh about them. Yeah, I think I do use humour, comedy, in kind of like a defensive mechanism, but I don't think I've always been conscious of it, because I think it's something embarrassing can happen. You can either cry about it or laugh about it, and I laugh about it. My friends laugh with me. They share my pain, but they will also laugh about it. I think guys can be quite brutal, You talk about football dressing rooms. You know, if someone misses a penalty, they'll rip the mickey out of you. It's like that. And I would do the same about them if they bought a really embarrassing piece of clothing. You know, it's all part of the banter. I hate saying that word, but banter. And it creates a great environment.